beverage. I'm at West Tech Performance. As you can see, I have a different office. I'm actually in the office at West Tech. Hopefully the signal is good, and hopefully you guys let me know in the comments. Excuse me. Let me know you can hear, because I have something plugged in here. I'm trying to keep it charged up. So today I'm going to scoot this back a little bit. Try to do it without running stuff. So today, actually last night, and then into today, this morning, try to run the 4.3 liter. Try to install a camshaft because we want to do a cam swap on it because we'd run the stock cam already and it worked good, and then we wanted to upgrade a cam, and I got one from the guys at Summit from Comp Cams. Sent out 4.3 liter V6 cam. Okay, no problem. Last night we talked about changing the valve springs, and I got that all done. Put some VF springs on. Actually, the shout out to the guys at Brian Tooley Racing. Got some VF springs that I normally use when you put an LS. You do one of my low buck truck camshafts in, and you got a spring upgrade. They're $79 at Brian Tooley Racing. I used those Beehive springs on this. They worked fine. Excuse me, I'm a little bit worried about the a little bit concerned about the keepers, but it'll work for what we're doing. Got all the springs changed. Did video footage of that because I wanted to make a video on the cam upgrade and what happens, and then took the rest of the thing apart. One of the nice things I found is that I took the intake manifold off because I figured, okay, this is not an LS. I'm going to definitely have to take the lifter trays out because we had taken the push rods out, taking the rocker arms off, and I even took the studs out when we swapped the springs. and so I took the intake manifold off. I thought, okay, we're gonna have to take the trays off, take the lifters out, just pull them out, kind of set them aside, and then so we pull the cam out, all that would be good. As it turns out, it looks like I haven't tried it yet, but I got all the way down to where we were pulling the cam out. But it looks like the lifter trays, like the LS, these are plastic ones, looks like they'll hold the lifters up in place so that you can slide the cam in and out without worrying about that. The one thing I did notice is, so you wouldn't theoretically have to take the intake manifold off, but I did notice that with the intake manifold off, I was able to push the lifters up a little bit farther into the tray. I didn't try it the other way to see, because like on an LS, what you do is you just rotate the cam and and that pushes the lifters up far enough out of the way, theoretically, to get the camshaft out. Pushing it up with the screwdriver with the intake manifold off on the 4.3 would definitely get them way out of the way, and so the cam will come right out. It may come out the other way, and that would be interesting to know if other 4.3 guys, if you've done this and you've done this kind of cam swap, can you do that without taking the intake manifold off and pulling the lifters down? It looks like you can. It looks like it's set up the same way that an LS is. It has similar hydraulic roller lifters in it, so maybe that's a possibility. So this is a balance shaft motor. This is a 96 to 98. I took a look at the casting number last night and sourced that online. So this is a 96 to 98 block. It has a balance shaft, and so I took you got to lower the pan down, took the balancer off, took the front cover off, lined the gear up and stuff, took the cam gear off, and then that gives you access to the drive. It's a gear drive basically for the balance shaft. So you have to make sure that the balance shaft is lined up also when you're doing the camshaft. They're all marked, so it's just dot to dot kind of thing. It's not highly technical, even when you're doing it for the first time. So took that off and took the cam retaining plate on it because it has a cam retaining plate just like an LS does, or most hydraulic roller stuff, Chevys and Fords. It has a hydraulic or a cam retaining plate. And then so we took that off. I went to pull the cam out, and I'm like, okay, before I pull the cam out, I'm going to prep the other cam because I hadn't even looked at it, just had got it in the box. And took it out and I cleaned it off. I like to clean them off like with brake cleaner or something, and then I put oil on them before I put them in. It's hydraulic roller, so you don't have to put assembly lube or any of that on there. You don't have to put zinc stuff. You just put oil on it and put it in there, and it started up, and it's just fine. And so I went to put oil on it, and I was looking at I wanted to verify. One of the things I was concerned with was the length of the dowel on these, because there's a difference in the dowel length, and the dowel length on the one that I got looked like it was short. I'm like, I can always pull the dowel out of the other one, and it's a little bit more work, but pull the dowel out of the other one and put it in this one. And then I started looking at it, I'm like, oh, the whole snout's different. It's not the same. That's why the dowel's different. And this is a non-balance shaft camshaft, unfortunately. So I didn't figure that out until after I had this motor all disassembled and had swapped the springs, and the motor sitting up on the dyno, because that was the easiest place to work on it. I did the spring swap with the motor on a stand on the floor. That wasn't a big deal. You just hook up air to hold valves up and do a spring compressor stuff. So all that was very easy. But getting underneath it, the way that it was on one of those little rolling dollies for a small block Chevy, and it works for the V6. But having it up on the dyno elevated it. So getting to all the bolts for the pan, and it's a cast pan, so you got to take off all of them and undo all but the last one to get it to angle down. It's not as bendy as the stamped steel one. So the composite ones has which is why they seal better. They have a rigid flange on them, which is good. You kind of want that. And they have reusable gaskets, which I like also, and a one-piece pan gasket. It's pretty nice. So I dropped the pan. I had taken the front cover off and stuff, and went to change the cam. It's not the same. So now I have a motor that's all apart. the intake's off, and luckily I kept the cam in it. I don't like to pull the cam out, especially with lifters that have the potential to drop, until I have the other cam ready, because I want to have the cam out and back in, and I want to take as little time as I can doing that. So I like to prep and make sure I take one cam out, put the other one in. So if the lifters are thinking about dropping, let's let them drop after we get the camshaft back in. And then after that, it's just lining everything back up, dot to dot. I marked everything, although there are dots on everything, on the balance shaft and the drive for it, and and the timing gear and all that stuff. So it's fairly straightforward. I'm looking forward to doing that, getting that cam in. I've got springs in. I think that these springs will run fine, and then after that, I can run boost on it. I'm going to talk to the guys that I obviously have to get another camshaft for it. But I want to talk to the guys at Holley or Quick Fuel about maybe getting a blow-through carburetor for it, and maybe even an EFI blow-through carburetor if they have one. I need to look into it and see if they do. I'd like to try that. I'd like to run it on the 85. We can run a little bit more boost that way, and I'd like to run a turbo on it, and then maybe I could put the torque storm back on there. That's all good stuff. But it definitely needs to get some boost on it. And then I can think about doing other intake manifolds. I could configure like a sniper for a small block Chevy, make that into a V6 one, just so it's cooler. It's kind of tunnel rammy look. And try something like that, because this intake manifold that's on it is nowhere near like the optimum intake manifold for for this V6. So I want to put something else on there that's going to add power to it. We can try. My buddy Jason's got some aluminum heads on it, and if they're an easy bolt on, and we can do that, I might try that. I know they're not Vortec heads, but he has another intake manifold. I think he has a single plane intake manifold for that, so that would work out. But at any rate, we want to put, you want to get some boost to it. So after figuring that out this afternoon, I thought, well, while I'm here, if I'm not going to run that, it already has a small block Chevy bell housing on it. What I can do is, because I didn't find this out until the afternoon, I have some more time left. I'm going to get the LT1, and the last time I tried to run it, I ran it fuel injected, and I don't think it did as well as it could have fuel injected. After we put the heads and cam in it, I'm going to run it again with the carbureted manifold to see where it is, and then I could compare it to the way that we ran it when it was stock, to see if are the gains that I'm getting from the ported head and cam, was I holding back those gains from something happening with the fuel injection, with the intake manifold, with our hokey intake manifold, with the distributor going through the back of it? Was there something else going on? Having more data with the carbureted intake manifold, would it, and it's not the way that I want to run it. I want to run it with the LT1 intake manifold, but at least I could get more data and see if the power would be up even further with the carbureted combination. Well, I went over to get that motor, to bring it over, take the V6 off and put that one on, and I don't have that intake manifold. I'm thinking that I took it home. I won't know till I get home and look at my storage that I have at home. I'm thinking that the intake manifold is there and that I left it there and didn't bring it down, didn't bring it back down. So I spent a few hours, I went over to there to get the motor. I was going to load it up in my truck over at my storage, and then looked around in all the storage facilities that I have to try to find that intake manifold. It's just not there. So the only place that I can think is that it's at home. So that killed that. I wasn't able to run the LT1, which I wanted to do, but I have another plan for that, and so we'll see how all that works out. So because I couldn't do that, what I did was went over to the wrecking yard. So I thought, well, I'm gonna get something done today. I'm definitely gonna make something happen. So I went over to the wrecking yard and just did a walkthrough and looked at all the cool stuff. Nothing makes me feel better than going over to the wrecking yard. And in fact, I went over to the wrecking yard long enough that they had to kick me out because they closed at 5, and I'm still walking through there at like 5:10 or 5:15, and they kept announcing on the loudspeaker, "Hey, we're closed, so you need to bring all your stuff up here." I didn't have anything because I was videoing. I was just, running around talking to myself, doing videos. People watching me like, what? Why is that guy talking to himself? But the thing that I like about it is it's therapeutic. Like, I love walking up and down the aisles, and I saw lots of cool stuff, like I always do. I saw a 5-liter Mustang there, which was awesome, and I think it was even an LX, which is, I don't ever see 5-liter Mustangs there. But, so it was, and it had the cool original, what are they, 10-hole? I think they're 10-hole ones. The aluminum wheels are on it, and so it was an 88 too. One of them was an 88. There's another LX there, but it was a V6. This one was actually a 5-liter V8. It's an automatic V8, but still, I hardly ever see those there. So that was cool. I got to see a lot of other cool stuff. So I'm gonna do a video on that. So at least I got, at least I got something done today, which is important. But unfortunately, no dyno testing, which is sucky. But I have somebody coming out. I think he's gonna be here Monday. I think we're gonna dyno test on Tuesday. So he's got something he can run on Tuesday, which would be good. So we'll see. We'll see what happens there. I need to see. I don't know what the schedule is for tomorrow for the dyno, and if it's open. What I can do, I think I could go over and maybe get the Pontiac and try to run a Pontiac, because I want to try to run something. So we'll see what you guys got going on here. Scrolling. So let's see. Eric, what's going on? Jeff, Aaron, I did see lots of Magnums today. Lots of cool stuff. I'm going to see if I can elevate this a little. Any Gen 5 LT combos in the future? The only LT that I have is an L83, but not an LT1. I have videos up on LT stuff that I've got from doing stuff with Brian. Southlands, Chicago, Chi-Town. I've driven through there on my way to parts in Ohio, and I took my Omni there. Tennessee, and thank you for your hard work and information to get the job done for all those broke guys. Yeah, let's see if I can. What's a realistic number for the most NA power I can get out of an LS3 while still keeping it a daily driver, and what route should I take? Well, you're gonna have to balance the drivability and the power output. So if you put a cam in it, like a cam and springs in an LS3, there are cams that you could put in that are only 550 lift. So like the low buck truck cam shot I have, that I have, the Truck Norris, Chopacabra, all of that, those are good like daily driver cams. If you're going to go bigger on cams, you're also going to spend more money on springs. If it's an automatic, you're leaning towards a converter. So it depends on what your own personal balance is between drivability and, drivability and power. Lots of guys want, I want to make 500 wheel horsepower. Okay, that's 600 flywheel horsepower. And to do that in an LS3 takes a lot of stuff. It's like trying to make 500 horsepower with a 5.3. It's hard to do. I mean, it's not hard. It's expensive. Scrolling. Trying to put the Cyclone back on the road. Cool. Does he keep blowing motors up? 226, 236, LQ 4 317s. Is a 3500 stall too much? 226 in a 6-liter. That will be enough. I honestly don't think that a 226 on a 112 needs a 3500 in a 6-liter. I think you can get away with less than that. Spin the block upside down. Would that keep the lifters up? It will if you can flip it upside down. They won't fall in. But because this is basically a brand new motor, there's lots of tension on the factory plastic retainers, and so they're holding it up just fine. Michael, what's going on? Tim, looking at all those USPS boxes reminds me of how the trash service I get locally and how they steal my packages. Product still sells 4.3 liter, 23-degree heads. Yeah, I have a set possibly available to me. Stay tuned, Garage. Just built the turbo ascent. Yeah, that's Tony. I know Tony. He does good stuff. What's the most duration camshaft at 50 you would use in a 454 Gen 6 with factory tune port? You need to be able to tow lots of weight. I still think it'd be I think it'd be under 220. Did you get the 2.2 retainers for the springs? Yes, I did. And I was looking at the Dodge today because I had to go over and play musical motors to get stuff out. And the Dodge is another possibility. I couldn't do it while on this trip because doing the Dodge is going to take at least a day of swapping the pistons back because even though it doesn't make any power, I want to put them back the way that they go and then put new head gaskets on and stuff, and so I can run boost on it. Any plans to run boost on an LV3? I don't have any plans to do that. I don't have one. The only videos that I've done on the LV3 is the stuff that Brian did, that they tested when they were running LV3 stuff. I'm scrolling. I'm gonna see. Let's see if this will work better. That seems to be a little bit more stable. Okay, there we go. Magnums are always nice. Yeah, I saw a lot of Hemis and Magnums today. YouTube channel, Legit Street Cars picked up a quad 442. He's been working on it. Oh, that's cool. I do like those. We saw one of those in the wrecking yard. That's the only one I've ever seen. In fact, That's the only time I've been that close to one of those. I saw one driving on the street one time, but this is the only time I've seen one really in person. Vortec 4.8 versus 5.3. What is your question on that? The quad force and heat engine, basically a GMK series. I would argue that that's not the case, but it is a good motor. Ready for a camshaft upgrade in 2025. I saw Isky has 5 specific 454 Gen 6 camshafts to choose from. Isky makes good stuff. I like the guys at Isky. In fact, I usually recommend their big block lifters for guys because I think that they work really well. 224 at 50. What would be your go-to cam for daily LS? Mine would be my low buck truck camshaft. I don't think you'll find a better daily camshaft than that. I saw a celebrity in the background at Hemmings upload. Yeah, that's when Evan was here. Evan was here testing that 4.8. And Evan's the celebrity, not me. Any plans to do boost on an LV3? Nope, I don't have one of those. He broke 3 4.3s. The last time he cut didn't work, and they put 18 pounds on 32 degrees. Yeah, that's not going to work. Isky has a 208 at 50 to 238. Yeah. Do you need a cam? I have one left. It's a 218, 228, or 224, 230. For what? For the Magnum, Aaron? Is that what you're talking about? I have one of the guys from Utah, the UT Awesome guy. He sent me a camshaft for that, so I can put a camshaft in it. Looking forward to the Pontiac dyno sessions. Love to see some Oldsmobile and Buick stuff. I like the Cadillac. I like doing the Cadillac stuff. It's too bad about Courtney at Cadco. I want a custom 480 torque converter to match, but need to be able to tow and drive it anywhere. Isky should have 212, 218, 220. Yeah, they should have all that stuff. Howdy, y'all. Wrong 4.3 liter cam. Yeah. I saw a lot of 4.3s at the wrecking yard today also. T14 at 50 looks good. Was an Oldsmobile 428 base cam too. Quad 4s. Dan used to blow head gaskets. Did you do a lot of stuff with the quad 4s, Dan? I'm going with a 236, 242 at 50. That's a lot. It should make good power. If I add your 219 cam, better springs, long tube headers, and better air intake to my LS3, where do you think I would be around for power? That cam on an LS3, I would think it would be at I'm trying to think 224, 227. I'm thinking it's 530 or 40 at the flywheel. Oh, Aaron, for the Magnum. I've got a small one that those guys sent, which is the Kager cam or whatever, the EFI cam. I think it's a 2.0 something or a 210. I don't think it's very big, but I mean it should help. I was looking at cams last night, and none said they would work on balance shaft engine. Comp has balance shaft cams. I know because I've run them. I think a 224 at 50 is too much for what I plan to do. I just think the 224 cam made peak power fairly low, even with the EFI stuff. But, well, I take that back. We didn't run the cam with the EFI stuff, so I can't say that. But looking at how much earlier the EFI stuff does than the dual plane, I would go smaller on the camshaft. DJ 280ZX, did you have a question? I'm interested in the UT cam specs they sent. Seems very high. He seems very, very conservative, and typically it's a single pattern. And it might be, you're right about that. I'll have to take a look at it and see. It's just sitting over there in storage by the motor. Saw turbocharged HO Quad 4 in a GTZ Beretta. What did he do? The transmission was a manual trans GTZ. I just did Quad 4 stuff at the dealership, although I did see one in a Cadillac at the World Finals running in stock eliminator. I threatened to throw him out. It wasn't stock. Where do I find your low buck truck cam? Just send me an email. Or you could look at there are lots and lots of videos that I have up on that where I tested on a 5.3, tested on a 6.0. I have lots of Facebook posts, lots of Instagram posts. What would you recommend to cam and freshen up a 220,000 mile LK4 square motor? I don't know what you mean by square. If you just tell me where you want to make power and what you're using it for, I can suggest a camshaft. Oh, a Cimarron, yeah. 210 to 214. Yeah, somewhere in there. Even a 218, I would probably work on a 454. That's not very big for a 454. DJ, thank you very much. And I'm a big fan of Z's and ZX's. There were actually two early 240s that I saw in the wrecking yard today because I was looking at the intake manifolds. I found an intake manifold on the ground. I'm like, that's a 240Z intake manifold. And then there's cars sitting there too, although they list it as a 1969 240Z. And it's most assuredly not a 1969. Manual trans in the GT, yep. Yeah, you're definitely gonna need a clutch. Wish I bought a Holder cam years ago before the sloppy stage 2. That's not a bad cam. It makes good power. It makes more power than the cams that I have. It just makes a lot less through a lot of the curve. 4.3 turbo, 350 in a Chevette. Should I buy it? Yes. What's the best cam for a 4.3 liter for a daily / off-road? They make lots of good cams that are small that are going to be in less than 220 degrees of 50. For a 4.3, I think I would go even smaller than that. The one that I have, I think, is 210. It's a Magnum cam, but it doesn't fit. I think the Cimarron came with a 2.8 liter V6. The Quad 4 would actually be an upgrade from that, especially the HO version. Yeah, the HO versions were like 195 or 200 horsepower, right? Those are good. What are you doing with the LS fuel pressure regulators, Richard and others? You guys ditch it, use an ICT billet plug, an external return regulator going into rails, or after. The stuff that we do on the dyno is we use the dyno regulator. We deadhead it and just run the rails. And then if it's an older rail, like the rails for some of the truck manifolds, we just plug them. And then we just deadhead the rail. And then our air motive regulator dictates what the system pressure is. We just adjust it. Very rarely do we, I don't ever run factory regulators on those things. When would you not buy a Chevette? Why the name alone is almost an omni killer. Wow, shots fired. Chevettes are cool, and you can swap motors into them, which are also cool. Can you have LS with cam that has chop and turbo at the same time? Yeah, you can put any camshaft in you want with a turbo. So if you want a big nasty camshaft that has lots of chop, it's not going to make the turbo very responsive, but you can have all that if that's what you want. I don't know why you would, but you can. 454 Gen uses an LS 58 PSI regulator. It's a spare motor, LQ4, looking to build up to 500 horsepower. I already have a truck Norris cam. I don't know how I feel about 220,000 miles. I wouldn't worry about that one bit. If you're putting a bunch of boost to it, let's put ring gap in it. But I don't worry about the mileage like that. I've got 350 on mine. So if you look at that, you got another 130. That's a lot of years. Kevin, you missed the PAW catalogs? Man, I can't tell you how many times I went through their building. Like, I would go through the PAW catalog and the Speed of Motive catalog trying to figure out if there was a way for me to circumvent, meaning at a lower price, putting together packages that weren't the packages that they sold, trying to piecemeal stuff together. I spent lots of time building imaginary motors and all kinds of stuff. I'm sure as we all did. Early Cimarrons had a 2-liter pushrod 4-cylinder. The later ones had the 2.8-liter V6s. And did you see Derek from Vice Grip got his hands on a Pantera? I haven't seen that. I am a Pantera fan. I used to buy from the PAW catalogs back in the day. The first cam upgrade for my Fiero V6 was a PAW Stage 3 cam. What, Michael, was it a regrind cam or something that they did for the Fiero? Richard, would your low buck truck work with factory springs and injectors, also with a stock tune? No to all of those. It will work with factory springs if you have the 550 lift factory springs, like on an LS3 or an LS6. Those will work because those are 550 lift springs. It won't work with the 500 lift springs that are on a 862 or a 706 kind of head. It won't work with those. You could put it in and drive it around with a stock tune, but you're not going to get the power out of it because you don't know what the air fuel is and you don't know what the timing is. So you're going to need all of that stuff. And factory injectors, you're going to need something bigger than factory injectors because the camshaft, because it's cool, adds so much power that it adds more power than you have available fuel with factory injectors. I had 5 Chevettes at one time. Dang, T. I found racing no-name nationals yesterday. The Mallory Comp 110 FI large external pump and the stock 454 Gen 6 regular, not bypassing fuel fast enough. Back to my Jazz 16 fuel cell. That is a problem if you have a gigantic pump, and if you look at the return flow rate of lots of stock regulators, those don't go together. You can't bypass enough to have a realistic, an accurate pressure reading when you're doing that. PAW, the Super Gorilla 490 big block Ford. Nice. I'm spending time trying to avoid high shipping costs. The kits from PAWs. Lots of 350 and 383 and all that stuff. PAW cams were new. Not sure who made them, but that's cool. Panteras are fun, really loud and hot. Yeah, and I don't know about anymore, but judging by their results in the Silver State, not terribly reliable. What happens, Richard, when the return fuel going through the orifice is too small? Actually, engine goes lean. Yeah, it ends up going lean under wide open throttle because it gives you an artificial, like you're adjusting the regulator, it gives you an artificial reading because it can't bypass enough, so it gives you a high reading. And then when you adjust it at 58 PSI, part of that pressure is actually from it not being able to bypass it. It's like an FMU. It's like if you crimp the line and the pressure went up, that's what's happening. And then when there's lots of like demand from the fuel and the regulator goes, oh, great, I'm not having to bypass as much, the pressure goes way down. SSI cams are all regrinds. Would you rather have an adventure vehicle with 2-wheel drive and more suspension travel, better handling, better ride quality versus a solid axle swap with 4-wheel drive? I don't know. I've never had either one of those kinds of vehicles, so I don't know how to judge that. Any suggestion? If I was climbing hills, like I have a 4-wheel drive truck that I actually used 4-wheel drive in for maybe the first time in any of the vehicles that I've ever had, because we had a ranch where I used to go out and catch snakes, and the hill, it was a sizable hill that we had to climb, and it's a trail basically, and washed away a lot by, we get a lot of rainfall there, and so a lot of it is washed away, and there's lots of rocks and stuff, so you got to 4-wheel over stuff. So that was kind of cool, and I like that, and I definitely needed 4-wheel drive because I have street tires on it, not any kind of like monster mudders or anything. But I was going to get up and go look in the areas where we were going to try to catch snakes. Any suggestions for a budget electric fan setup on a 98 Chevy truck? Can you go to the wrecking yard and find something that's an upgrade for what you have? That's where I look for fan stuff. The factory stuff is all really good. I was at Thunder on the Strip in Gladwin, is that Michigan? A couple of weekends ago, and a guy had a Chevette hitting 117 in the 8th. Nice. What motor was in it? Every cam is a turbo cam? They are. I'm going to say the other influence variable is resale, and some vehicles are worth far more if they're four-wheel drive. Yep. Looking at a Weldon 2040 EFI return regulator today. 288-inch return size orifice. Todd, what's going on? Got my truck back from the tuner, and it chops hard for a couple seconds, and it falls on its face and mumbles, and the motor starts shaking, and then starts chopping again. Truck Norris cam, tune related. It's not the cam. There's lots of guys running around with that camshaft that drive them every day and don't have any problems. So that's a tune related issue. Cold start enrichment, setting full throttle. Yeah, all of that stuff has to be done. I know when the guy like Eric and when Ish was here, when they would do tunes for street stuff, they would let the car sit overnight and cool off completely, because cold start is a big part of like startup in these things, and you have to have that tuned. And the only way to tune that is if you make the motor cold. It's snowballed, Richard. Hated stock GM side saddle tanks, terrible fuel control, hard launches, then 2 in the tank pumps left me stranded, waiting for my buddies. That's not good, man. I use the Chevette's off-road on trails, put coilovers on them. Nice, side-by-side tires. Very cool. I have 8,000 miles on the Mallory, big pump, hasn't died. That's cool, that's good. Sometimes those things can be problematic, but as long as they're mounted properly, like external pumps, and they always have fuel in them, they seem to last a long time. Best budget fan is a Dorman Mercury Marauder Crown Vic fan. See, there you go. No Brakes has your answers for you. I didn't see any Mercury Marauders, but saw quite a few Crown Vics at the wrecking yard today. I did see one 6-liter, had 317 heads on it, and it also had the later Trailblazer SS style intake manifold on it. It had 7. What did I see? Oh no, I take that back. The 6-liter had 317 heads on it, but it had a regular truck intake manifold. I also saw another one that I think was a 5.3. Oh no, it was not a 5.3. I saw one of them had 317s, one of them had 799s, and I think that there was also a Recport one there. Look at the Ford Taurus SHO. I just wanted to rotary swap a Chevette. That's cool. Actually started my Camaro in the winter multiple times during extreme cold, negative 120 to work on the cold tune. It's important. You got to have it be cold. I mean, it doesn't get really cold here. Sometimes they get snow, but very rarely. It only does it at idling, so that's why I was curious. How did you first start working on motors? That happened to me out of necessity way back when I had my split bumper Camaro, because the motor got hurt and started burning oil really bad, and so we had to rebuild it. So my dad showed me how to do that. Not sure what motor, but he's running 3615 tires. So he had lots of motor in it then. LS iron block versus aluminum block for turbo application, which is better? Most of the aluminum blocks won't handle the power that an iron block does. The exception is the 5.3 aluminum block, but the LS1, LS2, LS3, those blocks won't hold the power that the other ones will. So if you want to make power, most guys go with an iron block or that 5.3 aluminum block. We're in a set of fans from a 99 Grand Prix of my 93 Mustang. It's a nice fit. Oh, very cool. I'd run it like this with the AC and the heat, no problems. Nice. I wouldn't take an aluminum block over 1,000. Yeah, the exception is the 5.3. The 5.3 blocks will go where the iron block does. Those are not a problem. I haven't run one there, but Capizzi and those guys have run those aluminum blocks there. And they've run them at way higher boost levels than I have. Because they're, you know, they're drag racing in the real world. I can't believe how often I get that. It's funny when you bring guys to the dyno and dyno their motors, how differently they think that the dyno is after you do that. I like using factory fans. Yep, those are good. Lost consistency. 44 Gen 6 head. I remember one of your recent lives, the return fuel system pressure regulators were too small. Yeah, we ran into that problem with the Focus. We ran into problems with the Honda stuff. Probably with the Ford stuff too. Although that would have been all fairly recently within the last 10 or 15 years. Because before that, we weren't making lots of power. I haven't heard the Capizzi name. Are you on social media at all? I would think that he's still the fastest stock block LS stuff, and certainly stock bottom end stuff. I think. I don't run in those circles, so but his is the name that had always come up. Doing stock bottom end stuff and taking it out, and you know, because he obviously knows how to drive and knows how to build cars and knows how to go fast. So when you combine that with lots of power production that you can make with the factory stuff, it's pretty cool. So you did a smoky burnout in your 454? You smoked the track out? Launched in my 8th mile. So why did you put so much heat in the tires? And what did it run in the 8th? There's nothing better than doing a John Force style burnout and then running a 15 in the 8th to make everybody happy. PSI on the tires. What tires are those? And what would you normally run in those if you're trying to hook it and book it? I'm disappointed. I was really, after all the work, I really wanted to dyno something. What's your favorite build? It's always the next one. Which of John Force's daughters is your name? I don't even, I think probably the only one that I know the name of is, does he have a daughter named Brittany? Do you see any gains from 180-degree headers? I don't know. I've never run them back to back versus something else. And then what I would tell you is about that is that it would depend on the exact headers that you run versus the other exact headers, and less to do with the 180-degree thing. They do look awesome and they do sound cool. And I know I'd benefit from a higher stall converter. However, do you think my Corvette stock converter would handle a 219 cam? Is your Corvette, if it's a 6.2, it has a chance to do that. If it's a 5.7, I don't think so. It might work with a good tuner on it, but Ashley is fearless. Okay, I don't know their names, so. How's the 1 liter project doing? I haven't done anything on the Metro in a while. Have an issue with 93 4.3. It's running rich no matter what I do. New plugs, coils, wires, fuel pump. Try 2 different rebuilt throttle bodies. Do you have a problem with the O2 sensors or with the computer itself? Will a tune also affect vacuum for my brakes? Yes, it does. If you have lower idle vacuum, it will affect how your brakes work. Could running 2nd gen S10 headers be causing my issue with the O2 sensors in a different spot? Did you have to extend the wires? And do you have leaks? Headers, that happens with the headers. The Moroso Kobo Gen 6 oil pan worked flawlessly. That's awesome, man. At 80 PSI. Nice. Better question is to ask Richard what snakes he likes. That would be the same thing, whatever the next one is. I haven't caught a snake in a while. It's probably time now because it's been way too hot where I live. The snakes don't come out when it's 90 or 100 degrees. They don't like that. And the same next build is my favorite. About to drive the Turbo 6.4 Impala. Nice. Next couple of days. Very cool. Met her at Arizona Nationals a few months ago. John Force too. I always liked John Force because I thought he did very good interviews after his test because he was all like, oh man, it was so awesome. And I like that. I don't want somebody that gets out of a top fuel car and is like, you know, cool as a cucumber and is the corporate guy and all that. I don't like that. I you know, as much as I think Tiger Woods was one of the best golfers ever, it was much more fun to watch John Daly because, you know, he was crazy. Just moved it back 10 inches from the factory location. So you had enough wire to do that? Do most people overcam? Police cars seem to keep up with standard motors. I don't know how the police and the cam thing go together, but overcamming is a common problem. I'll look at the Isky 214. Yeah, I think that's going to be a good drivable cam. It's an 09 LS3 vet, but I think the factory converter is 1800. Yeah, I think that would be fine on a 6.2. Check your catalytic converter, fix the 4.3 that was acting similar, and the cat looked like it had baked on sludge. Yeah, you can burn those in there and then get them clogged if they're really bad. Finally got the aluminum 5.3 in the S10, very cool, with the original S10 5-speed. The S10 5-speed bolts to that, is it like a T5? What is it? Have to clean the garage before I can get it out and drive it for the first time. My last tuner for my Mega Squirt stuff cost me a lot. Change tuners, definitely less stressful. Having a good tuner is important. Plenty of wire, nothing was cut, only moved to accommodate the second Y pipe. Cool. YouTube has police chases, police cars to 120. 440 Ford FE. I saw a couple of FEs at the wrecking yard today. Ford FE small cam, Holly 750. Stumbles lean when applying throttle. Upgrade pump diaphragm or squirters and pump cam. I would look at all of those and I would look at them one at a time. I would look at you can physically look at the way that the squirter is actuating when you hit the throttle. Is there delay in it? Then it's not a size problem. It might be a cam problem. So I'd look at that and you can usually determine that. Remember John Force at Fremont in the Brute Force car? Pulled the front wheels to 3/4 mark. Front wheels didn't turn. That's good. S10 5-speed is an NV 3500. My 93 first gen Blazer has one. So if I wanted to put an LS in my Z, All I want to do is get it running and have it drive around. I don't care about how much power it makes or anything. I'm just going to put a stock 4.8 or a stock 5.3 with a carburetor on it. All I want to do is have the car drive around. And I want to put a manual trans in it. So what trans would be the least expensive way to go for swapping it into Z? So somebody let me know in the comments. Anybody running a PSI LS harness? Remember when they ran big block funny cars and AA cars? Those are cool. Do you go to the nostalgia drags, Dan? I need to look in the MPVI3 and send it to someone who is well known. This is the only local guy in my area. Muncie T40Z TQ5. Didn't he trip the beams with the wheelie bars because it hopped the beams? That would suck, because then you'd run a 6.0 or something. That would be terrible. Yeah, I'm thinking a T5 or one of these other ones. MSD box and a T5. A T5 is kind of what I'm thinking, although I haven't seen one in a wrecking yard for a long time. Cheapest, probably quickest to find would be from a V8 Camaro or full-size truck. Do they have manual transmissions in full-size trucks? Muncie bolts to an LS with a QuickTime bell housing. Advanced adapter bell housing, 05 GTO flywheel, 87 Astrovan, 11-inch clutch to fit the 14 splide, 1-inch output, LS7 pilot bushing. Would it be possible to put a small cam in LS and then put a rising boost curve in so I can make 500 foot-pounds at 2,000 and dead flat to 7,500? You could if you had really good control on it, but I don't know why you would want to make that much torque at 2,000 RPM. You're going to have to, it's going to be difficult. That's not going to be a cam thing. That's actually going to be more of a turbo thing. T5 from a Camaro with a V8 might work. Tremec TKO. I want to spend as little money as possible. Got a 5-speed my Chevy 2500. I know that they put 5 speeds in some of the trucks, but it's fairly rare. I mean, I've never seen one in a wrecking yard. T5 is cheaper than the T56 option. Not sure of the size. Chevy manual Z bar does fine. Been using it on my SM65 and an 80 Chevy dually. I think I've seen C4s and a 240 with a Windsor engine. It's got to be a manual trans. Tremec TKX made to shift at 7,000. Yeah, don't want any of that. The NV3500 Chevy is what you want. They're compact and stronger than people give credit for. Should be behind a V6. So if I find a V6, like an S10 or something, that's a manual trans, that's a 5-speed, that's the trans that I want. And will that bell housing work on an LS? Going to do a 5 or 6-speed swap on my turbo square body. Now looking for the parts. Half tons have a stick, but first gear is 3.5 to 1. The trucks are NV4500. T5 is low cost, but torque capacity limited. None of that's a problem. I'm not going to be. I ran my T5, my non-world class standard T5 in my Mustang for 85,000 miles, and then took it out with a supercharger at the Silver State, drag raced it, went to all of these things, and never had a problem with my transmission. And so I think people are hurting T5s from abuse. But for what I need to do, a T5 would be fine. I just don't know if I can find it. Top Fuel friend tunes on some of the nostalgia Top Fuel cars. My old boss ran a front engine Top Fuel nostalgia car. Thought he was crazy, yeah. 93, 98 Silverados. Oh, so the V6 full-size trucks will have manual transmissions in them? I didn't even think about that. I did see some V6 trucks. I never looked at the transmissions in them, though. Google 95, S10, 4.3 liter 5-speed. Okay. I wouldn't put too much power to a 3500. The NV3500s and the Silverados, Blazers, S10s, any of the 4.3 manual transes will work. They'll bolt right up. And the single cab 4.8 trucks came with them. might just get the flywheel for, you just get the flywheel for a 2000 truck. Okay. Because I need that, I need the right bell housing for the starter, right? That's the issue there. Best thing about Tremec is that they should have a kit that has everything you'll need. Yeah, but a Tremec would be really big money, and I don't have like a T56 money. Mustang 5-liter had a decent T5. Want World Class Edition as roller bearing. Yeah, I didn't have any of that. Mark, what's going on? I ended up spending my money on a boundary oil pump. I don't know what that is. Is that a manufacturer? Cams can come later. I saw two 5.4 4-valve Navigator motors at the wrecking yard today. 240 would be a lot lighter than a factory V8 car. Yeah, I mean, ideally, one of these all aluminum LS motors that I have in it. You don't want the 6-cylinder version of the T5. The input shaft is different. My inspiration on turboing my 5.4 would be Porsche single turbo down in the back corner of the engine. Cool. Advanced adapter bell housing and hydraulic throwout bearing cost me $700 to put a T5 from an 86 S10 into an LS. Oh, that's reasonable. An NV40 500 is $1,000 and $2,000 for the NV 5600. Drag racing, you have to flat foot. Yeah, the no lift shift. And debating the swap for the overdrive in my 456 dually. That's a lot of gear. NV 3550 6-speed from a Wrangler. I don't know if I saw any Wranglers there. Just under 400 horsepower on a Barra, and a T5 will last with enthusiastic driving. I had a supercharged 5-liter with heads and cam and intake manifold on it, and it made 430 or 440 at the tire. So, and we did a lot of racing with it. In fact, I did a lot of road racing with it where we shifted way more than guys do in their drag racing. So I never broke one. And Firebird T5s was rotated clocked bell housing. NV 4500 online, saw for $800. Yeah, BNR, road racing, I'm much easier on the transmission than guys power shifting these drag race deals. V8 full-size trucks came with a T5. The Fords did. 4.3-liter M90, yeah, that definitely needs to happen. The AR5 is probably stronger than a T5. V8 full sizes. I just think that the odds of me finding a full-size V8 manual trans on the wrecking yard would be pretty slim, I think. I've never looked for that, honestly. I've never looked at any of the only ones that I look for transmissions today were the Mustangs. And it's easy to break transmissions with very little power. It's easy to do dumb stuff. I got so I could, with lots of practice on racing and stuff, I got so I could shift really efficiently. NV 4500s or 1500 U's. I still see 5 speeds and old body salt pickups. Cool. There's an NV 3500 Chevy two-wheel drive in Visalia. Is anybody looking for carbureted LS intake manifolds? If you are, let me know. I have since I came down here, I could pick up stuff. I have a split Holley single plane intake manifold, cathedral port. I have a dual plane cathedral port, and I have a single plane rec port that's not a split one. It's the regular single plane one. So I have all of those intake manifolds. So if you're interested, let me know. Or if you have a transmission that you want to work out a trade with. T5, Spec ATF use, Lake Speed says Redline M90 gear stuff for manuals. Not sure if you can use it in a T5. I remember we used 7590 in the T56. I need a multi-carb LS manifold. I have one of those. I think I have a dual quad, like Holley Sniper manifold. I know that it's sitting there, and I'm never going to use it because I wouldn't put that on anything. I don't remember if it has injector bungs or not. So if you're interested in that, let me know. I'll bring that home with me just in case. 10 single carbs, yeah. They did do, I remember seeing 6 of them, 6 deuces, and then I thought that they did have one that had more than that. I might be interested in a dual plane. Okay, Jody, yeah, send me an email. Richard, followed your advice when it came to cam selection. It's a twin turbo 6-liter. I want the BTR twin turbo stage 3, and I just have to figure out what size turbos. So are you trying to make a lot of power then at high RPM stuff? Because stage 3 is not what I would pick unless you're doing high RPM stuff. I need a carb hemi intake manifold. The only one I have is that dual quad, Aaron. I'm interested. I need it for my 65 convertible. Katie, which one? Just send me an email and tell me what you want. I'll bring it home if you want the dual quad one. ECU wiring is 75% complete. Just got to hook the wideband up. I need to check tomorrow and see which one I have. But I have these carbureted intake manifolds, and I also have the MSD the ignition controller. But I think that the one that I have is a 24X. So if it's a Gen 3 one and you want to put a carbureted deal on it, I think that I have both of those. ECU is going into a 94 Falcon XR6. Those are cool. I have a single plane on mine. Yeah, Katie, I can't type it in, but it's Killer B16 at AOL. 614 MSD. I don't remember what the part number is. I'm just pretty sure that it's the earlier 24X only. It's not adjustable for both of them. So, Jason, what was your thing there? Okay. I just want it to be streetable in 89 Trans Am. Yeah, stage 3 cam is not what I would pick for that. If you've already gotten it, then you're going to use that. But that's bigger than way bigger than I would pick for any kind of street motor. And even a strip motor, it's bigger than I would pick. And is it a 5.3? I'm looking forward to ordering the Lowbuck truck cam. Yeah, I have those now in stock. So they were late getting here for a while. And so I had a bunch of back orders, but I sent all those out. So I have them now, and we're all good. And that situation won't present itself again. we are good. So while I'm down here, if anybody is wanting me to pick up anything while I'm down here for parts or anything that I can send out to you that you're interested in buying, let me know. Trying to clean out my storage area. One more minute. Oh, Cruise, thanks, man. Cruiser. Cruising for a bruising. What about a speedway cam? Eventually I want to use my headsets and fix the X-treated cam cap. Like a super speedway? Forza Eagle crank H-beam rods. Oh, okay, so yours is a built deal? So you're going to run RPM with that then, right? Take any Cleveland stuff that I want to ship to Australia? I think the only Cleveland thing that I have is an iron stock 4V 4-barrel manifold. So that costs like $1,000 to send it to Australia, I'm sure. Need to test the RB. I agree. I would very much like to do that. 03 Avalanche, 5.3 liter BTR Truck Norris, 513 gears, 38 tires. Looking for torque converter stall recommendations. With a 513 gear on a 5.3 and a Truck Norris cam, I don't think you're going to need a lot of converter. I mean, are you mud racing this or sand dragging it, or what are you doing? Jody wants to know if you can change the NV4500 yoke to a normal U-joint. It is in super stock 6-cylinder stuff. They run them on methanol. I need your turbo setup from the Hemi that you did. I don't think I have any of that stuff. I think that's stuff that we just made for that Hemi test, and then we probably cut it up and used it for other stuff, which is pretty common. The Eagle rods are good. Yeah, the Eagle rods are good. Cleveland cast iron 4V closed chamber heads were still valuable in commodity. Yeah, I don't have heads. I just have the intake manifold. Yeah, those heads are worth money. Cast iron Furbrel intermakes. Yeah, not so much. And the only reason I have that is because I think it came on the original motor that I got, and we used it for a lot of the baseline stuff, for testing when we were testing different heads and intake manifolds and stuff. And that was always the starting one. But it's heavy. Yeah, my turbo kits are not turbo kits. They fit the dyno and that's it. So they're not going to go in anything. Have any Pontiac intake manifolds? I think I do. But I got to run them. Super stock 6-cylinder was the first cam that I ever saw that had an inch of valve width. Nice. I'm going to be running some Pontiac stuff. I want to put a tri-power on it, on the 350. And I have a couple of 2-barrels that I have from various things. And what I want to do is, I don't know what kind of shape they're in. I don't know if I need to rebuild them or whatever. What I'm going to try to do is I'm going to put the 2-barrel manifold on the Pontiac and run it, and then just use it to test the 2-barrels and see how they do. See if they all work. And if they all work and make the same power, then they work. Then I'm going to use them as the tri-power setup and just mechanically link them all together and just hope for the best. I just want to make sure that they're all working the way that they should and providing the kind of right air fuel that they would with the metering for using them as a single one, not as a tri-power setup. For internal gated stuff, I have a Turbo Smart wastegate actuator. Would you also port the wastegate port? If you want to have, it depends on how big the turbo is and how much wastegate flow you have. So a lot of times with the internal gate stuff is you don't have boost control because you don't have enough exhaust flow out of that opening. So we have done porting on those. You just have to be sure that you don't go beyond what the valve is, what the sealing area is. You can't go beyond that. But you can do a lot of porting to improve that flow rate. It just gives you more control. You are porting cast iron, though. Yeah, 3 2-barrels, a tri-power setup on the Pontiac. I mean, they're famous for that. Obviously on a 400, or rather a 389. Yeah, BNR, I'm not doing any racing in this Z. And this Z is, it's a, what is it, a 2,200 pound car or something like that. It's going to be a lot lighter than any of the Mustangs are. My Pontiac has a 4-barrel Q-jet and a cast manifold. That manifold works really, really well, as all the Pontiac guys know. That's a good cast 4-barrel manifold. We ran that on the 400 and it did very well. But I do want to run a tri-power just because it's a tri-power and it's a Pontiac. You almost got to do that. I kind of want to see how the tri-power manifold compares to the standard 4-barrel manifold. I'm running a 2400 stall, seems to be fine. Just looking for some expert knowledge. I think that's probably good enough. That will be my first upgrade once it's running. The turbo is a stock 2012 Barra. Garrett 3576 1.16. So the motor is stock. You've just upgraded the turbo a lot. I don't know how much bigger that is than the stock turbo. Have you gone from a 350 horsepower turbo to like a 500 or 600 horsepower turbo? Like the idea of the Performer RPM as a step up. Yeah, I can't remember which one we tested, whether it was a Performer or an RPM, but it didn't really show anything over the stock one. The thing that's nice is it's aluminum and it's not cast iron, which obviously that's better for heat dissipation and stuff. But if it doesn't have any power, I don't know why people would buy it. It is a weight saving, so there's something there. But if it doesn't add any power, I don't think I would do that. Former RPM is still the best dual plane unless you port your stock iron one or an aluminum Rammer 5. Don's DCI Pontiac coming out with his dual plane. It's Pontiac Trans Am shakers, flows 340 CFM. So he has his own dual plane. That's cool. Tri-powers are epic. Sounds like a Q-jet when the secondaries come in. Yeah, and I could do it like that, I guess. I could have a, like a progressive linkage if I wanted to get really tricky on it. I'm probably not going to do that. It's probably all going to come in at once. Because it'll all be mechanically coupled together. It's not going to be, I think that the primary one, I think, was mechanical, right? And then the secondaries were vacuum secondary, or vacuum actuated, right, on the tri-power. Am I right about that? B&R probably knows. Rammer 4, Rammer 5. Oh, big tunnel port stuff, yeah. Evan Perkins is doing a Rammer 5 motor, so I'm curious to see what happens when he gets that thing working. Oh, so you're adding a turbo to an NA version? They came vacuum and mechanical linkage? Okay. Richard, you read? I do read a lot. Although I have to admit, I'm like everybody else, that the internet makes it a lot easier, but I'm usually fairly specific about how I apply search words and stuff, and I always go get way more than one source. So, because I don't want to get, a lot of times I go look for stuff and it's my stuff, and I'm like, no, I don't trust that guy. I want real information. Remember to hit the like button. 74 minutes. It's time to go. And on that note, it is time to go, but I will see you guys all tomorrow.